Thanks so much for checking out my show. I really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. I'm actually home right now, which is kind of rare during the week, but I'm out walking my dog. Scout, say hi, Scout. Say hi to everybody. She's kind of skittish, but she does love walks. But I've been digging all day into this case in Philadelphia, the Kada Scott case. Just a beautiful, beautiful young woman. I've been following it for like the last week, but a lot of new developments. They've officially identified her body. They have connected a suspect to her death. And what is so infuriating here is that this suspect has an extensive criminal history, a criminal history involving domestic violence, and even one specific case where the case was not handled correctly by the district attorney in the past, and you have to wonder if it was handled correctly, would Kada Scott be alive right now? These are questions that people in Philly are asking. In this episode, I'm going to talk to some of my sources on the ground and try to get to the bottom of mistakes that were made with the district attorney in Philadelphia and the latest on the Kada Scott case. All of that's coming up in this episode of Brian Ensign Investigates. Hey guys, so this Kada Scott story out of Philadelphia is just, first of all, it's just sad because this woman was a beautiful, young, smart woman, which I'll get into in a second. But it's also enraging when you look back at the justice system and the way it appears the justice system failed Kada Scott and her family. We can now confirm that remains found buried in a wooded area behind an abandoned school are those of Kada Scott. She was 23 years old. She had been missing for about 2 weeks in Philadelphia. Again, Kada, from everything that we can tell, was just a wonderful, wonderful woman. College educated, graduated from Penn State University in 2023 with a degree in communications. Extremely driven and ambitious. She was working in elder care, and she was also pursuing her dreams in beauty pageants. And the DNA tests have now confirmed her identity, that the remains found, it was a shallow grave, are definitely hers. They are, the remains are Kada Scott. So the prosecutors confirmed that today. They are saying that an anonymous tip led police back to the area. They searched and they found the remains in a shallow grave. So the suspect, who is now behind bars, he is 21-year-old Keon King. Right now he's charged with kidnapping, stalking. There are some other charges, and prosecutors say more charges are in the works. They say that King and Scott had cell phone contact and that a stolen vehicle found on fire was used by King. His cell phone was in several locations related to her disappearance, and there is apparently, according to prosecutors, extensive video evidence in this case. That's the way that they described it, extensive video evidence in the case. But this is the part that really gets your blood boiling and has a lot of people very upset in Philadelphia, because I've done a ton of stories in Philadelphia, Ellen Greenberg case and some others on crime, so I've got some connections there, and people are just like fuming over this, and really all over the country, and rightly so. Family and friends had alerted police that that individuals had allegedly been harassing Scott on the phone in the days prior to her disappearance. And this is it. There is another kidnapping case that this suspect, King, was allegedly involved in earlier this year. He was accused of kidnapping and strangulation earlier this year. So he was on the police radar. He was arrested. There were charges. All of this before this happened to Kada Scott. So he was on their radar. And there was even this creepy video that reportedly shows King stalking the woman in the first case. You're going to see, this is from TikTok, and it's video reportedly of King outside this woman's house.
Call the cops. Call the... It's all these kids in here. Call the cops.
So Fox reports that King has a protection from abuse order against him from a third woman, which is active until 2027. So there's yet another case, apparently involving another woman who said this guy was dangerous enough to go out and get this court order. And law enforcement sources also told Fox that King was also a suspect in a prior rape case involving yet another woman. Okay? So the signs were there, and the criminal justice system failed this woman who is now killed. And this is what's enraging. The charges were dropped in the first case initially because the victim failed to appear in court, which they didn't have to drop the charges, okay? And the Philadelphia district attorney, his name is Larry Krasner, he has now admitted to the mistake. He had a press conference last week, and he had another press conference on Monday where he admitted to it and said that they should have used additional evidence in King's prior case to aid in King's previous case. Bottom line, he said that he should not have been let off so easily. And he was asked about that. And he was kind of defensive, I have to say, at this press conference. And then kind of just like ran off at the end and didn't answer any more questions. But this is what the DA said at the press conference on Monday. And you'll hear the reporter question first.
What can you do to ensure, or I guess ensure the prove to the public, or there's probably a better word there, ensure the public that there's not another Kada Scott that's going to come out, that there's not going to be another kind of case like this where case is withdrawn, it's violence against women, case withdrawn, bail was not, appealed immediately. It seems that you're putting the blame on the judges for that. How can you ensure that there's not going to be another Kada Scott?
And I know that question was a little bit hard to hear, so before you hear his answer, I'm just going to tell you, basically that reporter, she was asking, what can you do to ensure the public that there's not another Kada Scott that is going to come out, violence against a woman and a person basically let off? And now listen to what his answer was.
Actually, I think it was pretty clear that I wasn't putting the blame on the judges. I think I was pretty clear that I was blaming the existence of cash bail. And systemically, we all have to try to do better. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania should stop making money off of bail, and they should go to a system that is much more effective, one where truly dangerous people remain in custody, and that has worked for more than 3 decades in D.C., and that is about 12% of defendants, and where the rest of those defendants are not required to pay money because, for the most part, they face much less serious charges, and the only reason they're in jail is because they're broke. The bail system is broke. That should be fixed. That was not a criticism of individual judges. That was a criticism of that system. What I can tell you is that the buck stops here. We recognize that there are some things that could have been done better in this case. From the moment this occurred, we have been looking at ways that we can improve our systems, because we have to be open to systemic change as well, and we will have further announcements about that in the future.
So have you done any policy reviews or looked at anything?
We are-
anything specific that you can tell the public about that?
We are actively looking at ways that we can do better. It is, it's everybody's view of this is always clear when you're looking back and you have fuller knowledge. It's nobody's view is quite as clear, whether it's a judge setting bail or it's a prosecutor making a decision. Nobody's view is quite as clear earlier. We need to try to change that. We need to try to find ways to be better at making sure that there are as few errors as possible.
I'm joined now by Mark Fusetti, a retired sergeant from the Philadelphia Police Department. There's so much anger, Mark, about the Kada Scott case, about the suspect, Keon King. Explain to me, should he have been in jail already? What's the backstory there?
Yes. So this young man, he apparently there was some issues for starting back in high school. I know he went to Roman Catholic High School. He was, I don't know if removed, but he threatened a student or a faculty member with a knife. So the signs were there. He was arrested, as everybody now knows, back in December for a kidnapping case. If you watch Larry Krasner's press conference, it was his CYA press conference the other day. He talked about how they requested bail for $1 million minus $1. Now, it's important for people that don't understand Pennsylvania. The reason that is, If you go over $1 million for bail and it's granted, you're on the clock as the district attorney. The person has a certain amount of time that has to be tried, or he or she is released, what's out on pretrial services. So that's why they asked for $999,000. The problem with Krasner's district attorneys is when they do this, they just ask for it. They don't give any reasons. They don't go into look at this history, look at this video. They just, we want it that much money. Because what's going to happen is the bail commissioner is going to look at this person, any person, and they're going to say, that's a little high. You're not giving me a good reason. You're just asking for it. We're not going to do that. So I wasn't in the courtroom. I would imagine that's exactly what happened. It happens all the time, every day. So that gives Krasner and his ADAs an out. We asked for $1 million minus $1. They said no. Pennsylvania judges are not allowed to respond to any criticism, any case whatsoever. So they can't even respond to defend themselves. This is an ongoing issue with this office. It's been going on for years. The world's just getting to see it now because of this beautiful young woman that was taken away, just preventable. To your question, yes, he should have been in jail. On the press conference, Krasner talks about the bail was dropped down to $200,000. And if you watch his press conference, he says the reason they don't appeal it, which this is the big problem here. This is where the lie is really festering. The reason they didn't appeal the $200,000 is because they didn't want to call a judge in the middle of the night, fearing if they did, asking for a higher bail than the $200,000 that was set on December 11th, that the judge would grant not a higher bail, but actually would lower it as a punishment for the district attorney calling them and waking them up. Now, I could tell you that is 1,000% a lie.
That's crazy. That's crazy to think about, that they would punish the district attorney by letting a bad person out. I mean,
no, and it wouldn't happen. Now, I worked for the court, so that's where my job was. I was in the court warrant unit. I would call judges all the time in the middle of the night to get a warrant, address change, whatever. Sometimes, I was clueless when I was calling them because I didn't have all my facts, and they were all professional because they know that's their job. They have to answer that phone call for me, for anybody that calls that night. So for him to make that allegation is outrageous. Again, he's trying to push the blame away from himself. But here's the problem with that lie. The bail was set. It started at 12:44 in the afternoon on that day. And I believe it was finally put on paper at like 3:30 in the afternoon. So he just lied. He was making people sound like it was 3:30 in the morning and they didn't want to call it a bail commissioner or call the emergency judge and have the bail increased. He lied again. And that's what he does. He lies, pushes blame on the judges. He'll blame everybody under the sun. Even I'm sure Trump was even accused in this problem. And he just says, it's not me. And that's the problem here. This kid should have been in there on $500,000 to $700,000 bail and with restrictions, house arrest monitoring unit. But they didn't. It was just another case. This happens every single day, multiple times a day. They get the guy. They don't want to put him in jail forever because that's ultimately his issue here. He doesn't want to incarcerate everybody. And and the kid comes from money too. So, they probably didn't want to fight his lawyer, who I'm not even going to say his name, but they have a personal relationship. So he probably was just like, you know what? That's his client. We're not going to bother. We're not going to pursue it. And now he's backtracking because, this young girl is, now gone because of him.
I think I read something about too, like the victim stopped cooperating or something like that. Did you see that?
So, and that's the other thing. He's blaming, the judges, the victim, the witnesses. So in Pennsylvania, what happens if I get arrested today and the lady across the street is the witness and I beat up her son. So she's the witness, son's the victim. What happens? We go to court, get bail. They give you a trial date or preliminary hearing. We go there. They don't show up, which happens all the time, for whatever for a litany of reasons. And, the defense and the prosecutors, they make agreements. Hey, we'll postpone it till this day. We'll postpone it until this court hearing or until the next hearing. You can do that 3 times, both sides. But what doesn't happen, no matter what he says or his office says, what they do not do is go out and try to bring the witnesses in. Now, I've actually brought witnesses in, homicide witnesses, where I've gone to their home with it's called a forthwith warrant and forced them to go to court and testify. You know, a lot of them don't do it out of fear, but this girl, from my sources, she was afraid that Krasner's office couldn't protect her, which they couldn't. And that's the reason why a lot of these people don't go. They're afraid I'm going to go down and I'm going to walk out of the courtroom with the guy. You know, he's going to be in the same courtroom. He's out on bail. They let him out. They didn't increase his bail. So now he gets to walk out, follows the girl. And this happens every day in that system down there. So to blame her is truly unfair, especially knowing she can't defend herself. But the office could have done more, and they don't. Just for people so they understand, when you go and you're a victim, they're supposed to call you, make arrangements, even to drive you, give you security, everything possible. They don't do that. The day of court, when you walk in there, they come around with a list and they just call people's names and they walk over. And the people that do it in the courtroom are very nice. And they just say, hey, do you need anything? Are you okay? And that's it. That's about the extent, except for maybe a high profile like murder case or something. They'll go a little above and beyond. But 9 out of 10 cases, that's how the victims are treated, just like another person.
Could they have moved forward even if the victim didn't show up?
Yeah. So in the preliminary hearing in Pennsylvania, and I'm sure it's like this everywhere, the burden of proof to get the case to the next level to get ready for trial is so low. With that video that has circulated, that I'm sure everybody has seen by now, that video alone would have almost any municipal court judge would have said, you know what, we're going to send this on, let this go to the next level. They can decide there whether or not to kick it or, or go proceed. Plus, the thing is that would have given it more time. Had he been in jail, he would have been in jail during this whole process. That's the key here. He's out on bail. They didn't ask for a higher bail at any of the hearings. And what they could have done too, if they really couldn't get the witness, they could have withdrawn the case, went to the witness, went to the victim and said, listen, come on, we're going to do this for you. We're going to, ask the feds for help for relocation. We got to get this person off the street. We believe he's going to be that dangerous to you. And they didn't do any of it. And you just watch the video. You don't even have to be a professional just to see this guy was lost in those eyes. I mean, that was a scary video. And that video alone should have just been enough for them to really step out of the normal everyday court process that they're just used to and say, we got to do a little more with this case. Unfortunately, they didn't. And a beautiful young life is lost now.
Is any of this just Monday morning quarterbacking though? Because I think prosecutors all over the country are overloaded and, bad things happen. It's like you look back, I mean, people slip through the cracks, or is this a bigger problem, do you think?
This is a bigger problem. This isn't new. For anybody that's just tuning in and hearing about this, like, oh my God, we have hundreds of cases, a few accounts on Twitter, along with myself. We post it all the time. Another person, a robbery, gun, a guy with 3 gun charges over a course of 6 months, out on bail again, immediate parole, bail, ROR bail, meaning you just go out without paying any money. This is an ongoing problem. It doesn't stop. And frankly, it won't stop. This isn't going to stop him. We have an election here in November for, the district attorney's office. And in an unprecedented move, his challenger is also a Democrat who in a primary in May, he lost. And that's just how it is. The sitting, incumbent always has that advantage. So he lost probably 60-40 when it came to at the end of the day. But the Republican Party in Philly, which is outnumbered, I think it's like 8-1, they wrote his name in, Judge Patrick Dugan, asking him to please run on their behalf so they can have a say come November. And he went and he did it, knowing that he was going to get some slack from his own party. But that's how important this election is.
So is he running as a Republican?
He's running on the Republican ticket, but he is Democrat, which is, again, it's a unique situation, but it also gives him a chance to give everybody one more chance at this. Like, hey, listen, everybody in Philadelphia now gets a voice, not just Democrats, because that's how our city is. Democrats control it all. Republicans rarely have no shot ever. This time, the Republicans have a shot because he will still get 40% of the Democrat votes too. But this is what everybody's just seeing this case right now. But this happens every week, every month, every year, and has been happening under Krasner. Not to mention the 3,500 plus people that have been killed under his watch, the tens of thousands that have been shot, injured, lives ruined changed forever. And this all happens in the Black community. It doesn't happen in my neighborhood. It happens West Philly, North Philly, Southwest Philly. He allows some of these small percentage of people to go out because he doesn't want to punish them. And he puts them right back in those neighborhoods, and they terrorize those neighborhoods over and over.
Well,
And
I
this,
remember when I met you, I was doing a story in Philadelphia about the crime. And I've been back several times since,
Mhm.
working on the Ellen Greenberg story and other things. I mean, it's really sad to see this situation Philly's in, regardless of what your politics are. You just go downtown. I always stay downtown, and you don't feel safe walking around. There's a lot of, just, I don't know, you see drugs on the street. Um, it has that gotten any better?
No. So when we met, we were talking about Kensington down there.
Yeah.
Kensington's still the problem. It's not front and center anymore because a lot of the people stopped going down, taking videos and posting them, but they're still down there, still just helpless, wandering. The crime is still high. They will say, oh, numbers are down. Look at the numbers. The numbers aren't down. It's the reporting that is down. If I were to go outside and my car was broken into, I'm not calling the cops. They can't do anything. They're not going to arrest anybody. They're not going to find the person. Where 10 years ago, I would have made a police report. Just same if somebody's walking down the street, gets jumped by 3 masked kids, they're not going to report it. What can they do? They don't know what they look like. They were wearing masks, dark clothing. That's it. There isn't a task force out there trying to stop these people. People are just like, you know what, whatever. It's easier just to go home and lick my wounds and call it a day. So yeah, nothing's really changed down there. The people are still wandering around. Crime's still happening. And that's it.
So, I mean, will Krasner, because he's a Democrat, will he probably win again, do you think?
I mean, it's a very long shot. And it's a shame because Judge Dugan, like I've told you before, my brother-in-law, he's a military vet. He went to Iraq, or Afghanistan, Iraq multiple times. He's sitting judge. He gave up his seat so he can run, knowing the cards were stacked against him. But he just wanted to bring to light that how bad. Now, this is a judge who sat and watched his district attorneys day in and day out with all the shenanigans, with all the nonsense they do when it comes to just dismissing cases and getting rid of allowing violent criminals to walk back on the street. He's trying to show the world like, hey, listen, this guy he's wrong for this city. I'm giving up everything I had. And being a judge in Philly is not hard. I mean, it's not easy, but they make great money. Probably don't work a full 8 hours a day ever. And you go home and you're done. Your caseload's done. You don't take it home with you. To give that up, to fight this man, again, it's going to be hard, but there is an outside chance that, especially what now people are starting to see what Krasner's really like. This isn't just a one-off situation. This is who Larry Krasner is. And, there's a chance. Long shot, but there's still a chance.
What about the Ellen Greenberg case? Because I've been just kind of like obsessed with it, covering it close to her parents. But I come and go from Philly to do stories, but I obviously don't live in Philly. In the true crime community, people are really upset about it. Do people in Philadelphia know about it? Like, what's the vibe in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, they know. The only issue that kind of sucks about it, because I believe, and everybody, she didn't kill herself. You're foolish if you think it. The issue is people tie Shapiro to it. So they have their little political angle, which is not the case. Anybody that brings it up, I try to tell them, you got to stop with the Shapiro angle. Yes, he knows the family. They're all connected one way or another. But Shapiro didn't, get a phone call in the middle of the night like, hey, I need you to, help my nephew out or help somebody hide this situation. It's not how it works. Unfortunately, in this case, what my personal opinion is the police went out there on a cold, terrible night. The snow, it was just miserable. Went in, just did a quick look around, like, this looks like a suicide, probably, and just chalked it up as that. Went down to the MEs, like, yeah, I think this is a suicide. No big deal. We'll call it a night. And it wasn't until the ME at the first time said, no, this is a homicide. And they went into CYA mode and they've been there ever since. But yeah, the documentary was just on Hulu. I watched it. They did a big thing about, the lock. Like, oh, well, it was locked from the inside. One, how do we even know that? But two, I kicked in doors for a living. I, could have done that 100 times. And here's how. You go in, you kick the door. See, he wanted somebody to go up with him so that way they could have two people find her laying on the floor. Had that doorman going up with him, I guarantee they would have unlocked the door and walked in. The latch wouldn't have been on. What I believe is he went in, kicked the door in, shut the door because you got to say it was latched. You just latch the door and you just pull it again. That's it. Done. You now have a door that looks like it's been kicked and latched from the inside. I fixed doors after we would kick them in countless times. That there alone is the easiest thing. That's the first thing that stood out to me, just seeing how that door lock was broke. That was a door that was broke afterwards, in my opinion. And, but people are starting to say it, and, they're following the media here. Finally, they're really on top of it too.
Do you
But
think anything will happen now? I mean, like, obviously not from the city of Philadelphia. I mean, the medical examiner has now said, what were you telling me earlier about when you were a cop? Like, was it easy to get the medical?
yeah, so what I worked for a different unit. I worked for the courts, but they're all friends. They all know each other, sadly, because they're down there all the time with all the murders in Philadelphia. It's a sad way of a business, but if I was a detective and I didn't really want this case on my plate, I didn't want a new murder, whatever, I go down to the M8. It's easy to say to him, her, whoever's down there, like, hey, listen, look at the facts here. I got this. There's no disturbance. Door was locked from the inside. It's looks like a suicide to me. Don't you agree? And at first glance, we're like, oh, yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no problem. That's how it works. Just so people know, it's not like secret phone calls in the middle of the night. It's go down, we talk, and I convince you otherwise. Now, I don't know if that's what happened here, but the flip-flopping that's been going on with this guy, yeah, and the meetings they've had, I mean, they said in the deposition that they met, they talked, and they don't remember what they talked about. I could bet my house on what they talked about. Yo, dude, don't change this to homicide. We're all in the jackpot if you do. That's what that meeting was about.
Do you think that anything will happen now? I mean, obviously Philadelphia is kind of, they said it's not. I mean, could the feds come in, or could the state, could the attorney general look at it?
I think the attorney general did look at it, and they, I think they're all ruling the same thing. I don't know if the feds did. I would imagine it could, but they probably don't want to be bothered. To them, it's just another case. But even if they change it to homicide, they should just change it to undetermined. Let it be.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
You don't even have to change it to homicide. Let it be undetermined. Nothing will ever happen. No one will ever get arrested. Anything short of a person coming out and saying, "Oh, I did it," there's no chance of an arrest or a conviction. So it's just let the family have their undetermined, call it a day. Let them, finally rest, because I feel bad for them. I know you've worked with them, but my God, man, this poor family.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, no, I don't think there will ever be a good outcome for them, sadly.
Just so sad to think about. Well, Mark, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Anytime, Brian.